Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you joining us again today. Well, I've got a little pistol video for you coming, and this one, it was brought to my attention that we have not been giving the 45 ACP cartridge any love, and that's actually not true. If you look a few videos back, did a video on the 45 Shield, but that was in fact the first video that actually covered in 45 ACP. Another observation that was made was that we haven't done any 1911s. Well, we did the Kimber Micro 9, which is a 1911 style, but true enough, that is not a true 1911. So in the interest of addressing both of those needs today, we have for you the Kimber Ultra CDP and 45 ACP. This gun's got a lot of things going for it. There are some people who like the 1911 platform. There's some people that hate it. We're going to talk about everything that makes this gun great and some of the things you might want to think about before you consider carrying it. And we're going to get to all that in just a minute. All right, once again, welcome back. We sure appreciate you joining us today. And, you know, if this is your first time watching our videos, or if you've been watching and you haven't had a chance to subscribe, you could do a big favor. And if you wouldn't mind, please locate that subscribe button in the lower right-hand portion of your computer screen there and hit the subscribe button. If you're on a mobile device, you could just scroll down below the video. You can hit subscribe, hit the bell icon. It'll let you know whenever we do something new. It really helps us out a lot, and we do appreciate it. So, Kimber Ultra CDP. It took me a while of gun ownership before I really got into the 1911. And once again, this isn't because of anything specific. It's just kind of, you know, everybody enters their gun ownership experience differently. You may get a gun handed down to you in the family. You may have somebody go with you and recommend something when you're new. However it is, you know, you may find something in a pawn shop and get it there, and it may have been based on price. But however you come into your gun experience, whatever you're used to is often going to be, you know, what you carry or what you're comfortable with. And I entered my gun experience with, you know, revolvers. And then the next thing I had after that was HKs and Glocks. So 1911s came quite a bit later. Now, obviously, the 1911 platform has been around for a very, very long time, as the name indicates. And a lot of people love it. And they're not for everybody. But having collected different type sizes and configurations, I feel pretty comfortable with just about any 1911 pistol and just about any configuration these days. But let's go ahead and kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this one here. So we always like to start off by kind of giving you a little size comparison. I'm going to do a couple different things here. The first thing I'm going to do is I always like to try to compare it with something that is not necessarily anything like it. It's just for size scale. So everybody on the planet knows what a Glock 19 is just about, or you would think. The reason I'm comparing these two together is because they don't have the same barrel length, and they don't even have the same outside dimensions. But they do have some similarities as far as how they're going to feel when you carry it. If you look at the overall length on the 19, and you look at the length on the 1911, of course, you've got this little beaver tail on the back. Well, when you're carrying this pistol, you are going to have to deal with this. I don't care what kind of holster that you have. Your holster is either going to have to come up all the way on the side to cover the end of the gun, or this is what you're going to feel on the side of your body. And on a lot of holsters, they don't go all the way. The leather, you know, the Kydex covers a portion of it, or even leather, and the top is the part that's actually against your body. So from that standpoint, as far as carried length, these are close to the same size. And if you look at them from a width standpoint, a 1911 a lot of times is going to be a little bit narrower. And you could see it is a little bit less until you get to the grip. Now, if you look at the grip, you look at it from the rear, and the grip height and the grip width, they're not all that dissimilar. And of course, the grips on this Kimber are rosewood, and they're pretty thick. And so you can see where that makes a difference in the size. Now, the other thing I want to do is there's going to be people watching that are already familiar with the 1911 platform. So they're like, okay, well, great. I don't know much about Glocks. I'm a 1911 person. I'm like, okay, well, let me bring in some other 1911s. So just for some scale here, this is a Springfield Armory Range Officer Champion. That's a 4-inch barrel. Okay, the CDP is a 3-inch barrel. So you can see, looking at them, obviously your components and your size considerations are going to be the same. You're going to have a little bit bigger grip in this 4-inch 1911, but you can see the barrel length. There's a huge difference between those. So that gives you a little bit of scale if you're used to carrying a 4-inch 1911. Now I'm going to do you one better. If you're used to carrying a full-size 1911, well, here's your 5-inch 1911 by way of this Springfield Armory TRP operator. So as you can see, once again, your components, your part that's going to be sticking above the holster here is going to be about the same. Obviously you have a bigger grip on this full-size 1911, but look how much more barrel you have. So if you're used to carrying either a 4-inch or a full-size 5-inch 1911, you can see that going down to a 3-inch is definitely going to be a much, much smaller proposition. But that should help give you a little bit of scale as far as figuring out how this is going to fit on the body, and it'll help with your comfort considerations, which we'll talk about later. All right, well, let's discuss the features of this particular handgun. So before we do any of that, as always, we're going to do a quick safety check for you here. You can see that we have an empty magazine. We're going to bring our slide to the rear so that you can see we are clear. You can see all the way through to the table there, and you can see our feed ramp and see that our barrel is empty. So we are 100% safe and 100% clear, which is the way we want to be. So on the Ultra CDP, I'm going to go through the specifications here, not in any particular order. All right, so we're talking about a 7-round capacity, which is very common for 1911s. There are some other variations, different calibers where that can change, but for a 45 ACP 1911, 7 rounds is not uncommon. In particular, I changed my magazine. These come with just a flat magazine across the bottom, which is fine, but I want to show you something real quick. Once again, this is more for people that have slightly bigger hands. My hands are a little larger than the average bear. But when I have a grip on this gun, without the magazine extension on the bottom, my finger was just kind of splitting the bottom of the gun there, which is okay. But just that tiny little extension, as you can see, it evens up my fingers, and it makes all the difference in the world as far as comfort. And some people like to have a little more, even if their hands are smaller and they're not going to be falling off the grip of the gun. But I just want you to see that. So once again, it's 7+1. This particular pistol, if you look over the surface, you can see that all these edges are nice and rounded and smooth. And what the CDP actually stands for is Custom Defense Package. And that's where they've done various things to make it more of an ideal carry gun. And these smooth edges that you see all over, that is part of that Custom Defense Package. So, looking at it here, your frame is aluminum. It's got a charcoal gray finish, what they call the Kimber 2, I believe. And then your slide is stainless steel, this little satin silver. Your barrel, once again, this is a 3-inch. They classify your 1911s by barrel length, and if you look from the back to the front, that is a 3-inch barrel. So it's 3-inch barrel, 1911, and it does come equipped with nice 3-dot tritium night sights, which I really like. This configuration is really popular. I've got a lot of guns that just have this 3-dot tritium sight set up, and I just really love it. I've actually got several 1911s with this setup, and the reason I like it so much is because the dots themselves show up really well in the daytime, and so the nighttime visibility is a bonus. It's just an easy setup. You get your 3 dots, of course, get your sight picture right above, and you're good to go. So it's really nice to have that. Your grips are rosewood. These are really nice. And the texturing that goes in these grips is really, really good. Now, in addition to the texturing in the grips, they've machined in some really good texturing on the front of the grip. They've got some underneath the trigger guard, and of course you've got it on the back as well. So you've got a lot of area that's easy to grab onto in here, and it's a really solid feel. Now, the rosewood grips, by the time you have these on the gun, like I said, once again, I have a pretty good size hand. It is pretty thick, I was showing you earlier about the thickness of the gun, and, just to put it in scale, if you look across from the edge of the grip, you can see how big it is. Now, it's not an issue for me. It's very comfortable, but it does feel kind of thick when you have it in your hand. To me, that's a positive because it's more of a solid grip to me. The trigger, Kimber advertised this trigger as between 4.5 and 5 pounds, and my trigger is consistently 4.25 pounds over and over and over again on my scale, no matter how many times I pull it. And of course, you've got your slide, stop, and release right here. And then, of course, since this is a 1911, it has quite a different takedown procedure than a typical gun. If you haven't seen a takedown on a 1911 before, I'll put a link in the description, and there's a separate video you can look at for the disassembly and reassembly. But for now, we're going to focus on the rest of the stuff here. Now, obviously, a 1911, if you are new to 1911s, this is a hammer-fired gun. And the way the 1911s are set up, you have a grip safety, you have a manual safety here, and you have a grip safety. So if you're going to fire your 1911, you drop your manual safety, you can pull this trigger all day long and nothing is going to happen until you get that grip safety in place. Now, people view that good and bad. Some people like the idea of having a grip safety. Some people hate it. Some people hate manual safeties. I'm not a huge fan of manual safeties on my gun, but if I'm carrying a 1911, obviously that's a different situation, because when you carry 1911, the recommended configuration, is cocked with the safety on, so the weapon is actually ready to fire. And that just has to do with your readiness. If you're going to carry a gun on you, of course you want to be able to deploy it and use it as proficiently and safely as possible. But once again, that's up to you. And of course, this is your magazine release lever right there on the side, and that gives you access to that. So it's a very nice finished, very nice looking piece, and this is going to be on the upper end of the price scale when it comes to buying these sorts of things. I believe that Kimber's MSRP on one of these is somewhere north of $1,200, even though they say that they're saving you money by combining things into the custom defense package. It's still something to consider when you look at one. But overall, a very nice pistol, very nice set of features. So let's talk about the range. Now, this is something that I'm going to enjoy talking to you about, because once again, I told you that my journey with pistols did not begin with 1911s, and I came to it later. So as a guy that did a lot of revolver shooting, as a guy that did a lot of Glock shooting and HKs, mainly USPs, I was used to the way those pistols performed, their trigger, that type of thing. And until you shoot a 1911, you can't really appreciate how well they shoot. And granted, they make some 1911s that are better than others. But my experience so far has been the Kimber 1911s, along with some other high-end ones, the nicer Springfields and such, and my Colts. these guns shoot really, really well. Well, this Kimber CDP was absolutely no exception. So out the range, the very, very first time I took this gun out of the box, I loaded up with some Winchester range ammunition, just regular brass ammo, and shot a couple of targets, and I found myself shooting in a very similar way that I shoot longer barreled pistols as far as accuracy, and I was wondering if that was a fluke because I've shot bigger 1911s. And even though this is only a 3-inch barrel, it's a very controllable gun. And then I moved on just to see if I could get the same results with different kinds of rounds, and I started running defensive rounds, including the gold dots, which I have here. This is what I normally use inside as far as my defensive rounds. I just really like them. But it ate pretty much every round that I gave the pistol. And now keep in mind, the one thing you are going to notice if you do a lot of shooting with a 3-inch 1911, especially if you have a really well-textured grip, is you're going to feel it in your hand. Now, I'm just talking about practice. If it's a situation where you're going to have to actually use the gun, I don't think, firing a couple of shots or whatever is necessary in a situation like that, it's going to turn you off of the firearm. But if you spent an entire day shooting rounds through this pistol, you're going to know about it because your hand is going to know that you've been shooting 45 ACP out of a 3-inch barrel all day long. You are definitely going to feel it. But it performed very well. It's very accurate. Now, I've mentioned in many other videos before that I typically try to train at around 21 feet defensively. Now, I'll shoot longer distances just to see how well I can shoot the gun and just, if it comes up. Because we always have guests at the range and they want to see what we can do with the guns. So we always try that out. But this gun, right out of the box, right away, nice little sub 1-inch groups just immediately right when we started, and pretty soon it was just one big raggedy hole and you couldn't really tell where my rounds were going anymore. So it very, very accurate. So in talking to people about this gun versus some other small guns, obviously we have a lot of tiny guns on the market today, the polymer pistols, you got all your micro compacts now. Those guns are fantastic, and of course we've done our share of coverage of those as well. But there is something to be said for a 1911 as far as how solid it feels and how well it shoots and how good the trigger is, because it's hard to describe, but when you fire a gun like this and you just consistently get this really, really good, crisp trigger, it breaks so cleanly, and your shots, as you watch your shots go where you want them to and you get back on target, it's really easy to produce really, really good groups right away with something like this. Of course, once again, if you're brand new to 1911s, keep in mind that this kind of gun, this has to be cocked to be shot. If your hammer is down, you can pull the trigger all day long and nothing is going to happen. That's the way 1911 works. It has to be cocked before you can fire the weapon. That's just all there is to it. And of course, you have to have the grip safety engaged. That's very easy to do. It's a very easy configuration. But keep in mind, if you're going to carry something like this, that's something you have to consider. Doesn't bother me. That's just part of it. But if you look at the overall performance, very good performer at the range. It wasn't picky about ammo, and I didn't have any malfunctions of any kind, nor have I had any malfunctions with this pistol to date in any way. So far, thumbs up on its performance. All right, well, what's it like to carry the Ultra CDP, or really any other, 3-inch 1911 as far as that goes? Well, that was a new experience for me. I don't carry 1911s regularly, and the ones I do have, I usually don't even end up carrying them on me as carry guns. I've done a few. I've got some Galco leather and a few other holsters that let me carry this on the outside, so if I'm wearing a longer shirt I can conceal the gun. For me, that was really the only way I could carry a 1911 because a 4-inch or a 5-inch barrel are just so big. including one I have. I have a custom TLE2, which is a 10 millimeter, and that gun just seems to go forever. And without a good leather outside the waistband holster, I didn't think it was going to be possible. But looking at this 3-inch, I have a couple different options, and I've always been a fan of the stickies. You've seen me talk about them before because they're very versatile. You can take a sticky holder and you can put a weapon in it like this, and then all you have to do is, secure it in the waistband, and it's very easily to access, draw, and it's very easy to reholster the weapon. And I feel pretty good about it because my situational awareness about where the firearm is pretty good at all times. But once again, you don't have any retention, and it just depends on whether that's an issue for you or not. Now, you can take it a step further, if retention is something that is a bigger concern to you. I've got crossbreed, and I've got a lot of these, Super Tucks, and these are, Kydex and leather. And you take something like this, and you've got a little more solid feel inside the holster. Now, this is still not, foolproof as far as retention. It has a little bit of, of tension right here. You have to make an effort to get it out. So there's some retention, but still, this gun could be pulled right out even if it wasn't by you. But as far as comfort goes, this has leather that covers the back of the weapon. So instead of this being against your body, it's against the leather, and the leather's against your body. So it's really, really comfortable. Now, I've got a lot of these holsters, and so far they have been pretty good. I feel like that, and it doesn't have to be this design. I happen to have several of these crossbreeds just because they can get them ready pretty quick. Like if I order a holster from them, I normally can get it within just a week or so at the most. If they're really, really busy, it's been a couple of weeks, but they're usually really fast, and they're very comfortable. So it's a really good option, for a lot of different carry guns. So for me, trying out the different options that I had, I tried the sticky. I actually did the sticky for a few days just to kind of see what it was like. And the sticky wasn't bad, but the only problem is that, and you've heard me mention this before, that a sticky is really only a good choice to me for a really lighter, smaller gun. Because if a gun's heavy enough, even in that sticky in your waistband, if you get to moving around a lot, it can, kind of work its way. You can feel like it's moving in your waistband a little bit. Not much, but I wouldn't be comfortable with a heavier gun that way. So the crossbreed was the way I actually ended up going here. And so whether you went with a crossbreed or an Alien or anybody's Kydex leather combination, extremely comfortable. I actually can forget I've even got the gun when it's in that crossbreed because the leather's against my body. It's a small outline, really, really super comfortable to carry. And it's very easy to, of course, draw and then return the weapon to the Kydex. So to me, if you're going to carry something like this, really that's the best way to do it. So overall impressions of the Kimber Ultra CDP. Well, I can't really say anything bad about the pistol because as far as I'm concerned, just as far as what I look for in a pistol, it really checks a lot of the boxes. There's one box that doesn't check quite as well as I would like, but I'm going to cover that. But just looking at it from a standpoint of what you get, obviously anyone who carries a 1911, I think they've already done their homework and they realize that, hey, I've got 7+1 capacity, but that's 7+1 capacity of 45 ACP. And we're not going to have the caliber discussion during this video. That's going to be coming up in a later video. But if you choose 45 ACP, just for me personally, 8 rounds of ammo is plenty. You've heard me say that in other videos with other platforms. I don't expect to hopefully need just ridiculous amounts of ammo. If it'll hold more, great, but other than that, it's no big deal. But the gun is made really, really nice. They've done a really good job of, smoothing down every surface of the gun so that it doesn't snag on anything. And that's part of the idea behind this, is that it's a custom defense package. It's made to be a carry gun. The controls are easy to manipulate. The grip has got good texturing. It's very comfortable. The sights are really, really good. They're very visible. And of course, the tritium sights, the nighttime component, is really great, really easy to see. And the gun just shoots fantastic. For a 3-inch barrel 1911, it's very controllable. So if you want to practice with it, you can build confidence very quickly because it does shoot well. And when you need this gun, you can rely on it. You know, I've looked at hundreds of guns, you know, and looked at their features and looked at their capabilities and limitations. And there are some guns, honestly, that there's no way I would carry. And I hate to say that, but there's some guns that I just don't trust my life to. And as well made and as well as this gun shoots, I would very readily trust my life to carry this gun. Now, let's talk about the negatives. Well, there's not many, but I think they're relevant. So, it is heavy. Now, is it heavy compared to most other metal guns? Well, no, not really. It's 25 ounces with an empty magazine. You know, that's right along the lines of, you know, a lot of these concealed carry guns. Most stuff around a couple of pounds is to be expected. Of course, but once you get 8 rounds of 45 ACP in here, you've picked up some weight. It is a little bit thick, you know, through the grip. It's not a deal breaker, but if you've got small hands, that's something to think about. This is a gun that if you carry it, you have to decide how you're going to carry it. And there's only 2 options really of what you can do. Option 1 is, you know, you carry it cocked and locked. Okay. Well, option 2 is you carry it not cocked. And that means you'd have to figure that out at the time you need to deploy the weapon. Now, personally, I know people who do this, and it's an extremely bad idea. If you're going to carry a 1911, you need to train with it, and you need to be comfortable with it. But I don't know anyone in a panic situation that's going to pull their gun out and really have the fine motor skills to remember to try to cock their weapon and then try to get ready to take a shot. That's just not realistic. So if you're going to carry a gun like this, one that obviously has to be cocked and locked in order to fire, you need to carry it in that configuration. That's how you'll need to carry the gun. Now, ultimately, like I say, it's up to you what you do. But I feel like that if you don't carry the weapon that way, to me, that's kind of a safety issue. Well, going back to quality and the build, you know, it's a very well-made handgun. The parts fit very well together. You can see the barrel is really substantial. The materials, the slide, everything, they've really put a lot into the quality and the manufacture of the gun. Now, once again, that leads us to the next negative, which is, you know, the price. This is not a cheap pistol. Like I said, you know, getting something like this is just north of $1,200. But if you're a 1911 fan, or if you like this kind of platform, you know, some people don't mind paying a little more to get into something like this. But it's definitely something you're going to have to consider because, you know, a lot of people, and understandably so, they just don't have that kind of money to spend on a carry gun. So if you're considering something like this, consider the size and the weight and consider the cost. But aside from those realistic considerations, everything else is fantastic because it's well equipped, it's extremely accurate, and so far it has been completely reliable. So in my opinion, it's a very good choice for concealed carry if those specifications are what you're looking for. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. We really appreciate once again taking the time to join us. And as I said earlier, if you hadn't had a chance to subscribe for whatever reason, could you please do that? Locate that subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner and hit that for me. If you're on a mobile device, just scroll down below the video and hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, and let you know when we do something new. And we really appreciate it. So that's going to do it for today. Going to be back very soon with another video for you. And until that time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Thank you very much.